Today we're going to talk about kids' headbands. Did you know that you can make any pattern that you find on YouTube or on the internet, including my patterns, into ones that will fit kids? So let's get busy today. Make yourself a headband, and how about making several dozen for the special little someones in your life? Let's get started. Let's make some cute kids' headbands. Secret 1. Great fabric. I get all of mine at spoonflower.com, and all of these prints are so fun for kids, and they're all designed by individual independent artists who get paid a commission when you order fabric from Spoonflower. So it's a double win. You get to pick the print that you want, and somebody makes a little bit of extra money for their beautiful artwork, which is great. So this is a modern jersey knit from Spoonflower. So that's secret number 1. Start with fabric that's wonderful, that stretches well in one direction. And let's get on to secret number 2. And I bet you know what that is. Secret number 2 is size, of course. Kids' heads change so fast when they're growing up. That's why I love this stretchy fabric, because we really get a little extra time and extra use for the wear before they grow out of it. So I'm going to suggest 3 sizes for kids that are under 9 years of age. So we'll do a baby size, toddler, and the 4 to 9 year olds. You can see here with this sample how different. This is an adult size. This is for the baby. So there's quite a lot of difference in the head size there, but we know that already. So I'm going to share with you the sizes that I've developed over the years of being in business and making hats, 36 of them so far. And then it's up to you. You can change any pattern to fit the age of the little one that you're going to make a headband for. And we'll get started. I'll show you a couple of my designs and how they translate into kids' sizes. We'll start with this very popular band that's on my channel. I think this pattern has the most views of all of the videos on my channel. I call it the Rosie band. I love it. I wear it a lot. This is the adult version. It's in 2 pieces. So there's a piece that actually creates this faux knot, and it's just sewn to the band shape. So I'm going to make one now for a baby and show you how it's done. And I'm going to just put the pattern sizes on with the text feature of this video so that you don't have to stare at my horrible handwriting. So I'm going to put the sizes here for the baby, the toddler, and the kids 4 to 9. Now you have 2 pieces. So this is the main body, and now this is the knot. Actually, I'll move that away. This is the knot, and I will insert text here so you can read it clearly. I've cut my 2 pieces for the baby, and I'm going to go sew them now. So you're going to sew the back seam right sides together. It's the back of the headband, and I'm going to sew this seam flat. So top stitch on either side of the ditch so that the seam is perfectly flat against the little one's head. And this is the knot. So I'm going to make a notch halfway down, and I'm going to leave a little bit of that open on either side of my notch, and I'm going to sew right sides together along here. All right, I've done some sewing. I'm going to pin the right sides of that back seam together, but I'm going to sandwich the band inside. And if you've seen any of my other videos about how to make a headband, you already know this technique. So I'm going to sew with my overlock stitch on my sewing machine or my zigzag or my serger from the side of this pin all the way around the headband to this pin. And as I go, I'm going to pull out the headband so I can release more of that seam to sew together as I go around. Then I'm going to turn the headband right side out. Now for the knot, I've done my seam. I've left an opening here because that's what I'm going to use to turn right side out. And now I'm just going to center that seam, and I will pin it. And then I'm going to sew in on an angle to give the ends of the bow, or the knot, sorry, a little bit of flare. So I'm going to sew on an angle, and I'm going to take off the corner of each side, or of each end of this knot, like this. And then we'll turn it right side out. I've got my two pieces turned right side out, and both have a little opening in the middle where I had turned them right side out. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to hand sew those closed. I'm going to sew it closed by sewing the two pieces together, and I'm going to have those two openings facing each other. I'm going to sew a little square here, and I'll show you what I mean. So I put those two pieces together with this little square, and this will be on the part of the band that is against the head. That's why I like making it nice and flat and comfortable. So when I turn it around, you can see the square there too, but we're going to cover that with the knot. So now we're going to tie these two ends into a knot, and we'll just give it a bit of a gather as we do it. And you can always make my pattern different. If you decide you want a more defined knot with longer ends, then you can make that piece longer. So cute. This would make such a nice gift for somebody who's just had a baby or is expecting a baby. You can make a little boy's version if you just leave out the knot and just do a regular band as well. Here's another set that I've made. This set is for a little girl who is 7 and her mummy. So now we're going to try one with a bow, an actual bow. And I'm going to show you how I make the bow. We have 3 pieces for this headband, and though you can see lots of patterns for headbands with bows on the internet, it's basically you just want the measurements for the kids' sizes based on the age of the child that you're making the headband for. My channel also has a pattern for the adult version as well. So I need a bow, which I'm going to fold in half and sew the right sides together, leave an opening in the middle so I can turn it right side out, a bow casing, and I've got my headband piece cut out now as well. I'm going to sew the back seam first, just like I did with the last headband. I've got my pieces sewn, and I top stitch on either side of the ditch on that back seam so it's nice and flat, and it looks like some top stitching on the right side. I'm just going to turn these right side out, and I'm going to sew this together the same way I just showed you how to sew the other one, and it's on any of my adult headband patterns is a more thorough and descriptive way of how I do this. But basically I'm going to enclose the headband by sandwiching it in between the back seam, right sides together, and I'm going to pin where my thumbs are, and I'm going to sew all the way around to get to the other side where the other pin is, and I'm just going to stop and leave this part open to turn right side out. Now I have all my pieces turned right side out. I'm going to call this part with the seam the back of the band, and you can see there's a little hole where the band was pulled right side out. I'm just going to make sure that the seam is flat there and the threads are trimmed. I'm going to turn it over, and I can tell where that opening is because I've got that top stitching on this side as well. So I'm going to set the bow down on top of that seam. And I know I called it the back seam before, but actually on these two headbands, it turns out it's sort of the front seam. So I apologize for that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to sew these two pieces together right down the middle. And I'm going to leave an extra long end of the bobbin thread and the sewing machine top needle thread on each end. So each side now will have about 10 inches or so of thread. So now I've sewn the bow onto the headband, and I have two double pieces of thread on either side. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gather that bow together, and I'm going to wrap while holding that bow pinched the thread in opposite directions. So I'll do a few wraps counterclockwise, and then I'll go clockwise with the other end of the thread. So these two pieces are going in opposite directions, and then when I feel that I've wrapped it enough times, I'll just tie the two pieces of thread into a knot, and that knot is going to be covered up by our bow casing, which we're going to put on next. So do a few knots, 3, 4, however many you think that you're comfortable with. And you can even wrap again if you want after you tie the knots. All right, so this is what you're going to have. Quick and easy way to gather both the bow and the headband. And now we're just going to cover this up with the casing, and we'll center the seam, and we will have the baby version of the adult bow band. And to put the casing on, you're just going to put the right sides down against the bow and just pull that casing so it's fairly tight, but not too tight, because you're going to have to turn it over so that the side that doesn't have the seam is on the outside. So we're just going to sew across a few times, a nice strong seam there, and then we'll trim off the ends, trim the corner a little bit on an angle, and then we'll turn the casing over. I've done my stitch. I'm just going to trim. And actually, by the way, I have done a video on how I make my bows. It's not a long video, so if you get a chance, give it a watch. All right, now I'm going to turn this over so that the seam is tucked inside. And I'll just work that casing to a place where that seam is in a comfortable spot on the headband. I find the friction just holds it in place generally. All right, there you go. We have a bow headband set now for Mommy and the little sweetie in her life. Or for you and your little sweetie in your life. Lovely, right? So how cute are these headbands? I will have some more kids projects coming up, including a special video just on things to make for little boys. So this is actually a very deep headband that's gathered at the top to make a little beanie toque. I have videos up now that have cute little baby hats, the knotted top for the little boy or the little girl, and then there's the cute little bow top. It's the same pattern, just the way that it's finished at the top is different. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out, you might want to check out the cute baby hat video on the Madcap Hats channel as well. And if you really like what you've seen so far, perhaps you'll consider subscribing to this channel. Hit the notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. We're going to have quite a journey on hat making, And after 36 years, I have lots to share. So I hope that you will feel that you won't be disappointed. I've got lots of sewing tips too. So subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned. We're going to have lots of fun. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye.